instead of in the bank. Because it tells me what you receive from me. There's a record of it. So that if there's ever some question, now we can go back and figure out, well, who do we know we got from whom, and where is it short? Okay? So, I mean, there's a fiduciary responsibility in this reporting that's important. It reminds me, a guy like me who's not in church very often in my home church, where I'm at in my giving. I'm always writing a check for 3 or 4 weeks worth at a time. And I might have forgot to count one of those weeks. So let me know. I said I was going to give so much, have I given it? If I'm not giving you a whole lot, this will kind of remind me that maybe it would be a good idea if I started. You put a letter over those numbers. Don't just send the numbers. Put a letter over the numbers. Your people are worth a first-class stamp. Spend 42 cents on a first. Don't put it through bulk mail. It's worth a hand-addressed envelope. It's certainly worth color stationery. Don't put your colored stationery through the black and white copier thinking you're saving something. Your people are worth more than that. Their gifts are worth more than that. Treat them with dignity. Send them the statement and send them a letter over the statement that starts with what 2 words?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now tell your story. Thank you for your gift. In the last 13 weeks, quarter, part of the year, from March to whatever, we've been able to do this thing because of your generosity. See? You tied the mission to the money, the ministry to the money, so now the numbers have context. That's just so important. Because it's not just about the numbers. It's about the ministry and mission the numbers do, what they represent. So that's really important. Some gifts need to be recognized, and you need to be aware of that, and people are okay with that. Some folks want to remain anonymous. You got to respect that too. Okay? The generous people can tell their stories. Let them do it. And develop a plan to thanksgivers at least 3 different ways during the course of the year. Professional fundraisers say 6 different ways, 6 different times. I don't have enough hope for us there, folks. So I'm going to say if we do half of that, we'll be doing 3 times more than we're doing now. Okay? So quarterly statements, 1. How about, you sent the kids on a mission trip, and the kids sold salami or pizza slices or cheese or something, right? Or they had a car wash or a spaghetti dinner, and people came. Wouldn't it be great if the kids wrote a note to those folks who we know made a donation? Thank you. It changed my life. You gave money for me to go to camp. Thank you. You gave money for me to go to Guatemala or to New Mexico or wherever it was. Thank you. For the mission chair or the personnel or property chair to send an email to folks. I don't know what your giving is, but I know that it matters. And I want to thank you. Because of your generosity, we got this great staff. Or we've done all this stuff for local missions. Or we've, been able to keep the sanctuary as a place of beauty and dignity for us when we come in to worship a God who's worthy of that. Or for the pastor to write a note. Whether the pastor knows the amounts or not, to be able to say, I'm so grateful you're a part of this congregation and choose to support it financially because God's doing wonderful things here. Sincerely. It says something. It says something, and it says something really important. The reason we don't do this, here's where I'm going to open up the can of worms. Lock the back door. The reason we don't do this is because we have created an incredible culture of secrecy around our money.
Absolutely.
And that is terribly unhealthy. Honestly, I did not believe, when I graduated from seminary, I did not believe that as a pastor I wanted to know what people gave. I was afraid it would contaminate my relationship with that. I might show favoritism, or I might, I don't know what I was thinking, but I was convinced I shouldn't know that. And I am now convinced that that was way wrong. Because I just talked about, for how long, money is a spiritual issue. What other part of people's lives as a pastor where I'm supposed to be the shepherd, the guide, the spiritual leader and counselor, the compassionate listener, what other areas of their life would I not want to know about so that I could be effective? Right? I mean, I came to learn very quickly. People told me all kinds of things. I mean, I knew who was sleeping with their secretary, who was stealing from their company. I knew who'd been to jail. I knew stuff. I knew all kinds of stuff. Sometimes I felt like I should go home and take a shower afterward. I mean, I knew all kinds of stuff, and thank God they trusted me enough to tell me those things. So what in the world would a difference make how much they gave? I mean, because I still love them as part of the church. I still call on them in the hospital. You're still going to get baptized or buried, whichever it is you happen to be in need of. Right? Your kids are going to get married or dedicated. I mean, the services of the church are still there. Nobody gets cheated. Right? There may be certain offices you're not eligible for. Well, that's good to know, because I also don't want somebody who's not a generous giver being chair of my stewardship committee. Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Amen.
It's just not the right place for them.
Yeah,
There are other places for them to serve where they got gifts and skills that are right on, and the church needs them, but they don't need them in the stewardship committee if they haven't learned generosity. That's just not where they're being called.
I guess the question concern is, I'm certain that some of the reason that people pinch at this idea of talking about money is generational.
Sure.
Between a whole group of folk who in the Depression, people who hold on to it like at home, you know, that kind of stuff.
Right.
Because in declining congregations when they're older, it's very difficult because they've got these old ideas from this is the way we do it, and when I started suggesting I was going to have to run out of the church, we need to write how we do things.
Right.
Stop keeping it a secret, because if you get sick, how is the next person going to know? Let them figure it out. I go, okay, Jesus, let's start over again. But here is the reluctance with pencil to paper to say, here is the way we manage things in the church. Even the fact when I mentioned, we've got a machine that, you know, zips the card through and money's in the bank before we get home. I don't trust it because they thieves on the internet. Okay, that's ridiculous. You know, and I'm trying, you know, what about on the phone and somebody can, you know, and it's just the horror stories, and I'm trying to walk past that. But I'm sure I'm not the only one that knows. All of you are real quiet, so that means you got to be in your church as well.
Yeah.
If you don't, I have.
Mildred, let me address that. Okay, a couple levels. First of all, unless you really want to move, if you're the pastor, you can't bring this up directly. Except in very exceptional circumstances, either communities or pastors. I mean, you can't have this conversation directly. You need leadership to have this conversation on your behalf. Which means leadership has to be convinced it's a conversation worth having. There's a great book J. Cliff Christopher has written. J. Cliff, C-L-I-F, just one F, Christopher, called Not Your Parents' Offering Plate. And he really gets at this whole idea about secrecy and money and why the pastor should know. In part because think about every nonprofit organization you know or a part of. I guarantee you the CEO or the director of that nonprofit knows every amount that they get from every individual. It's no secret to them. It is absolutely no secret to them. In part because, and they do treat those givers a little bit differently in terms of how often they approach them for money, whether or not they're candidates for legacy giving. And the big donors, you got those in your church, folks. You got about 20% of the people underwriting 80% of your budget. We need to thank them for it. They deserve that. 20% of the people in your church are underwriting 80% of your budget. If you don't believe me, go ask your financial secretary. Okay? Do they get special treatment? No. But we acknowledge that they're doing what they're doing, and we're grateful for it. And it's helpful to the pastor. I like telling this story, because when I finally learned, it was a process. I'm going to talk about the process in a second. The process, I was shocked. You know, I thought I was pretty smart. I thought I had it figured out. I thought I could line them all up for you in order as to who was given what. I was about 50% wrong. Which meant, you know, if you were afraid the pastor was going to kiss up to the people who were the big givers, I was kissing 50% of the wrong bottles. Yeah. Well, that's wasting my time, isn't it? Well, I'm just being honest, folks. Come on. It's late in the afternoon. Let's tell the truth about what this is like now. I don't mean to be disrespectful. Please don't take it that way. I do not mean to be disrespectful.
Speak the truth.
Okay? If your church has a need, and your pastor goes out to somebody who they think can help address that need, but they're really not capable or interested, they've embarrassed that person and they've wasted the church's precious time getting that need filled. If you have generous people who get what the church is about and want to give and are there to support, that's the person you need to go see when you've got a special need that's got to be addressed. And you are just wasting time if you don't know where to go.
That's right.
But that's the long end. That's at the end of this race. At the beginning of this race, let's go back to that fundamental